God's timing isn't always our timing. Sometimes we have to wait. I'm Tammy, and welcome to Refining Grace. When God gives a promise, it's an exciting time, but those promises don't always come right away. Sometimes we have to wait. There are times when they do come immediately. Sometimes they may come a little bit here and a little bit there, but usually we have to wait for the biggest part of it. David understood this. He knew about the waiting of God. You see, he got his promise when he was a kid. Scholars think that he was probably about 10 to 15 years old when he was anointed king. You know, if the prophet and the judge of God is coming to your house, you know that it's a special event because God has sent them there for something special. You know that it's going to be a blessing on your house. You know that it's going to be a blessing on your children. But Jesse had every child there but David. Every son but David. Can you imagine the prophet of God's coming to your house and your parents invite all your siblings except you? Jesse didn't believe in David. Jesse's brothers didn't believe in David. All they thought he was worth was to be a dirty shepherd boy. But God'd seen something different. Because God'd seen that when David was out there doing that lowly task, and a shepherd at that time was considered one of the lows of lows. But he still took pride in what he did. He still did it the best. And he took that time in the field to worship God. He took that time in the field to draw close to God. He's seen that how God was his shepherd and what that meant. So when Samuel went and he looked up on Jesse's sons, he seen the oldest one. The oldest one was tall and big and looked like he would make a great king. But Israel only had one of those. Saul was tall and he looked the part. And he started out doing the part. You know, you can look like you're a Christian, you can walk and you can talk like you're a Christian, but it's in your heart that matters. He went through all the rest of them, and Jesse had some big, strong boys. Later on, they were in the army of God. They were in the army of Israel when Goliath came before them. But none of them were the one, because none of them chose God first. None of them took the time to worship him like David. David was a worshiper. He loved to worship God. Most of the chapters in Psalms are songs written by David, songs of worship to God, songs through his most trying parts that he worshiped God. When Goliath came to town and the Philistines were fighting, and Goliath came and said, "You just send one person to me and we'll fight." All the army of Israel, all of David's big, strong brothers were there. They've seen Goliath come out every single day saying, "Hey, you dogs, come and fight me. Let's see who's strong enough." David was still doing his job, a kid, teenager. And his father said, "David, take some food to your brothers." When he went there, he seen Goliath make fun of his God. And nobody made fun of his God. And he defeated Goliath that day. But David still wasn't king. They said Saul kills his thousands, but David's killed his 10,000s, but he still wasn't king. He married King Saul's daughter, but he still wasn't king. You know, we talk about bad in-laws, and I have to say I had some great in-laws. They were my second parents. But David had a bad father-in-law. Someone who will chase you down and try to kill you is a bad father-in-law. Someone who will try to beat you up is a bad father-in-law. Someone who takes your wife and gives them to somebody else is a bad father-in-law. But you know, David still respected that anointing that was on his life because it was the anointing of God, the anointing that God had placed on him when he called Saul to be king. David still respected that. but he still wasn't king. It wasn't for years until Saul died that David became king. And then he ruled the country, and he was probably one of the greatest kings ever known. In fact, he was such a great king that people tried to say that he was mythical. Until recent years, they found evidence of David, and they found evidence of Solomon. God blessed them because they worshiped him. That promise that God gave to David is still there. It took a while. It looked like it was lost for a while, but it's still there. In fact, we haven't even seen the completion of that until we all get to heaven, until the new earth comes. We won't see the completion of the promise that God made to David. So sometimes David's promises don't come right away, but they're always worth the wait. God prepares us in that wait. As David was running for his life, God showed him how to be a captain of an army. God showed him how to lead people, not just be a shepherd, but how to lead them, so that when he took that office of king, he would know how to lead his country. So that when he became king, he would know how to start initiating the worship in the tabernacle again. David had worship going 24 hours a day. There was Levites that were commissioned to sing 24 hours a day. What a time that would have been to hear the praise, the presence, the singing and the worship of God, to feel the presence of God there. David was a great king, but David learned to wait. David learned to trust. And that's what we got to do. We got to trust in him. May God bless you and keep you.